as well. Now, the Jerome Tang story. Jerome Tang has been hired by Kansas State. Here's Kansas State. Armstrong, it's their official Twitter announcing Jerome Tang, welcome to K-State. Man, he looks pretty damn good in that outfit. There's no question about it. I and all of us, I think, can say that we're thrilled for him. Tough loss for Scott Drew and his staff. He's lost others. And we're going to hear from some of them in a minute as far as some quotes about Jerome Tang. He's had others that have been interested. He's been close. UTEP last year, among some others. He goes back. He's in the Big 12. And now you start to wonder, look at all the teams in the Big 12 who have fed other teams in the Big 12. Texas Tech to UT with Chris Beard, Baylor with Joey McGuire and Jerome Tang to Texas Tech, and also with Kansas State.
Yeah, I just speaking from 16 years of knowing the guy, he's been nothing but great to me. Always, he's fantastic. So if he's that great to me, how great is he to the players? Players love him. He's just got a way about him. He's always kind of been a head coach and an assistant coach's body, just developing into it. And Coach Drew said in the opening press conference the other day, when they asked him about Coach Tang and the possibility of him getting a head coaching job, he's like, well, he's been able to be picky. And then when you look around at the jobs that were open, not even just Kansas State, at the time when he said that, Florida was open, LSU was open, Mizzou was open. Some really big college basketball jobs were open that he could have been very picky about. I think he's going to be a great fit for Kansas State. I think he's going to do very well there. He's a fantastic recruiter. He's a fantastic players coach. The other thing about it, though, this is the first time. Grant McCasland went to North Texas. Scott, not going to schedule him unless they play in the tournament. Oral Roberts and Paul Mills. Matt Driscoll, North Florida. These are all guys that are not going to play Scott on a regular basis. Now they're going to play 2 to maybe 3 times a year, depending on how the conference tournament shakes out. And this is, and no offense to the other guys, but this is Scott Drew's guy. I mean, they built this thing together.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bummer, and yet it's a weird feeling because you're also, as much as you are sad maybe that he's leaving, you're thrilled for him because everybody loves Jerome Tang, and everybody has a great deal of respect for Jerome Tang, and everybody is very thankful for Jerome Tang, just like they were for the other assistants that you mentioned. But this one does feel different because he's just been like that guy that's been there the entire time, and we were talking nearly 2 decades of being on a Baylor sideline alongside Scott Drew. And you think of all that's happened during that time period. So, yeah, it's going to look a lot different, but nobody's more deserving. I mean, this could have happened much sooner, and they're kind of lucky that it actually took this long for him to get the job that he finally wanted to go, okay, I'm going to go and get that one. And I think his patience paid off because what would you have rather started? UTEP last year, K-State right now. I'd rather have the K-State job. So I think he made a smart decision in navigating when he eventually wanted to, somersault into another opportunity. But it is a bummer it's in the Big 12. And, man, I just hate that. I hate that, like I wrote in the article today, that it is a Joey McGuire situation, except for Jerome, saw the season out. But you're going to have to see him twice a year and maybe 3 times a year, and that's not going to be very fun.
And his job is to win.
Yeah,
and his job is to take whatever he can from what he learned here or who he can from here.
And that's what's weird to me is just kind of like the whole, like Joey McGuire is going to do the whole Matt Rule thing in Lubbock, and then we'll see Tang with the Drew system in Manhattan. And that's just weird to me. Like, I know it happens, like, for example, last week in the SEC with the Georgia-Florida, basketball hire. So that's not uncommon, but it is just kind of strange. And it makes me think, like, when we talk to Mac Rhodes, is like, how do you keep evolving to where what you did and what you designed ended up working the way that it did, but now the people right next to you that you compete against want to copy that and want to implement it at their school. So how do you keep your own touch on it and then keep it evolving and progressing to where, you know what I'm saying?
They
Can't just copy and paste it. Yeah.
But make sure your staff continues to have Grant McCasland, Jerome Tang, and Paul Mills and Matt Driscoll, and now what Jared Nunez might move up, or if he leaves, or Didier Malhotra, does he stay or does he go? And then, of course, you have those who are high up the ladder with John Jacobs and Alvin Brooks III as well. And Nick Saban loses people all the time. His teams keep winning. And I know it's a different sport and a larger staff, but his assistant staff is rated every single year, coordinators, assistants, and whatever else, or those that he has helped on the comeback trail. Now, here is a quote from Scott Drew. This is Scott Drew on Jerome Tang when everything became official from Kansas State. Scott Drew is a great picture of both Jerome and Scott Drew with the nets around their neck. Armstrong, do we have it? Coach Tang was one of my first hires when I came to Baylor in 2003. He's been like a brother to me for 19 years. Grateful for the energy, effort he put into helping us build Baylor basketball into what it is today. I know he's ready for the next step. While I'm sad I'll no longer get to coach alongside him, I couldn't be more thrilled for him. The amazing opportunity to become a head coach in the nation's best basketball conference. We'll get to that in a moment. Coach Tang and his family, tremendous additions to K-State community, and I know the Baylor family will be cheering him on for all but a few games next season. Wanted to note about this, and we're going to hear from some of the former assistant coaches, is that, I mean, you know, we're mentioning Baylor quite a bit. Yes, congratulations. We need to throw this in there and not just toss it in there, but Texas Tech, Kansas, and Iowa State, for goodness sakes. What a run for them. And then also Houston is back in the Sweet 16 as well.
Yeah, one thing on Jerome Tang, and then I have a note on Iowa State. In our documentary, in the Ode to Joy, when it comes out, people will see this. Jerome Tang tells a story about how when Coach Drew came over to his house to kind of interview him, and they were going to have him over dinner, he and his wife had to kind of scrape together grocery money to get enough food to barbecue to have Coach Drew over. And then Coach Drew said, "Well, I can only pay you, $75,000 a year," and he was like, "Well, all right, yeah, sure, let's do that." Yeah. And, for Jerome Tang, he was thrilled to get that. It was a huge deal.
$2.1 million now.
$2.35 million for Jerome Tang, and that's a guy who's earned every single penny of that, and I could not be happier. I think everybody couldn't be happier for him. I think he's going to do great at Kansas State. I think he'll do really well there. I think that if you're going to jump into the Big 12, and he's been through the teeth of it for a long time, Kansas State's going to be a great place to do it. They've had really good basketball teams in the past. Look, Bob Huggins is coach there. Frank Martin's coach there. Bruce Weber, and now him.
Yeah, there's no question about it. It is a basketball school, despite, of course, the success they've had in football with Bill Snyder and what Coach Kleiman's trying to do right now. Sebastian Matson, thanks for sharing this. Smokey, I know you guys, for whatever reason, on who didn't make it past the first weekend. UVA, remember, their biggest obstacle winning the tournament, they didn't have the one the next year. And then last year, quarantined for 2 weeks right before the start of the tournament, and they basically had no legs, and their COVID hit them right before the NCAA tournament. So there's other things going on as well. We're going to share some of the quotes from former assistants on Jerome Tang. The number to call today, 254-339-1122. Your thoughts about the weekend, and Baylor's had many other great weekends in college athletics, but not this one. And then the Jerome Tang story as well as he goes to Kansas State.